My name's Nigel Norris and I lived in Northop Hall all my life, apart from maybe working away for about 6 months in Wigan, Lancashire, but the majority of the times I've lived in the village. I'd like to tell you a few stories about the village. I'll kick off with Pentre Farm, which in Wepper Lane. I used to look forward to, I think it was around about July or August. They used to bring a threshing machine in those days. That was before the old combine harvesters. And it was, as a kid, I used to think it was a very, very interesting piece of equipment. And it used to be where Angela Hinton and Ian Roberts live over the other side of the Pentre Farm, across the main road there. That's where the stackyard was placed, on the left-hand side, where Angela's house is now. Now this thing was powered by a tractor, an old, I think they used to come on like a road major tractor. It was a green tractor. And all these belts and wheels and that it was a marvellous thing to see. And we were there all day, and there used to be quite a lot of volunteers from people from the village. There was, well, of course, there was John Roberts and Mervyn, the son, and then other people used to come out and give a good hand. There was Keith Davis, and I think George Grovers used to make an appearance there as well. And my old friend Russ Parry, he used to give a hand there as well. What a great day it was. Usually it used to be quite a thing to be there. Very, very, always used to seem to be a good day out, good summer weather. And it used to be up at the stackyard where Angela's house is now. Another thing about the stackyard, sometimes I'd go down there, and occasionally they had in the back of the stackyard an old Ford Model T, Tin Lizzie, and they used to use this to go and get bales from the top of the field. I can remember it now. Probably a lot of people out there can remember an old car, usually shown in old films and that sort of thing. And it was quite a thing to go up there on the back of this thing. No health and safety in those days, but very, very happy days. I was brought up in a little house, a row of houses, the middle house in Greenbank View, which was more or less, not quite, but more or less across the road from the old post office. The middle house there, and I was there for about maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, maybe. I can't quite remember it all. But my aunt Ginny, who was married to a man called George Stokes. Now George was a man who had quite a good record of things, and he had a business, a confectionery business, and he used to make his own toffee and sweets, and he did it with his own recipe and that. And this is before my time, prior to the First World War. And he was married to a lady there, and I haven't got any details of when she died. But he got married twice, and the second time he got married when she passed. My aunt Ginny married him, but in those days it was sort of early 50s. He packed up the business by then. But in the back of the old post office, to the left-hand side, there was a building. And this is where he used to sort of make the toffee and the sweets and that sort of thing. And unfortunately, I haven't got any of the stuff anymore, but it's just, it was, and I can't even remember that being built because it was before my time. But George, to just go back to George Stokes, he had a good track record, and he was in the Royal Navy in the First World War, and all right through until after 1918. Then he came out again, and he started his business up again, manufacturing toffee, and that went on. That went on for quite a long time, and that. But in World War II, World War One, he was he started his business up again, like I say, and he later married my Aunt Ginny. They were very happy. But George passed away. I haven't got the exact month and day, but it was in the early 1950s. In the 1950s, we moved over to the old post office. By this time, my uncle and my aunt had died, so we moved over there. We didn't run the post office ourselves. My mum and dad never ran it. My dad used to actually, he had a big orchard at the back of the old post office, and when the time came, around about August, he used to sell some of the pears and apples and other things, plums and that sort of thing there. As just a little bit of an offshoot for it. But Mr. and Mrs. Roberts, who lived in Boar's Head Cottages, Mrs. Roberts used to run the post office in those days. And I can remember as a child, I can remember having a lie-in maybe on a Saturday morning, and you could hear people below. My bedroom was above the post office itself, and you could hear Mrs. Roberts using the stamp, bang, 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 like this. And I can remember that vividly. And I think it was on occasion she would. My mother used to make her a cup of coffee or tea in the daytime. She used to lock the door and then come through. Can't remember any dramas over it being broken into or anything like that. People were pretty honest in those days. After the post office, after Mrs. Roberts left, there was a man called Mr. Edwards. I think he was from round Munodissa, in just by Buckley there, and he ran that business with his wife for quite a number of years, and that they actually did start selling, you know, bags of sweets and that type of thing there as well, and greetings cards. In the winter time, I was going to say, when Mrs. Roberts had it, I should have told this in the first place. It used to be quite cold in there, and they had in the shop itself, they had an old fireplace, and they used a coal fire, and it was really, really warm. I can remember that. Well, when Mr. Edwards and his wife left there, the business, the post office, moved across the road to, I think it was number 3, Greenbank View, and it was taken over by a man called Ken Catherall. He owned it for quite a number of years and sold various items in the shop. Besides everything being posted, you could even get your foreign currency and things like that from there. He lived over in Tudor Close, at the very, very end of Tudor Close. After he left there, John and Alice, I can't remember their surnames, they were from Rill. They took it over for quite a number of years. And then into the 90s, it closed down. And then since then, we didn't have a post office for quite a number of months, but it moved into the Methodist chapel. I can't remember exactly when, but it was, we're talking about 2008, 2010, something like that. After moving over to the other side of the road into Greenbank View, the old post office became a wool shop, and that ran for say about 2.5 to 3 years. Later on, it became a second-hand shop, and that ran, I don't know, I can't remember exactly when, but about maybe 3 years. And finally, it was a hardware store, sold drills and screws and washers and goodness knows what. I can't remember the gentleman's name that ran that business, but I remember on one occasion coming home and there was a little bit of panic in the next room, which was our sitting room. And what had done, this man had put the shelves up, and while he was doing the shelves, drilling the wall, the drill went right through into the parlour, living room, and it made quite a mess, narrowly missing a sideboard by about 2 inches. My mother and father weren't very, very happy about that. In 1989, my father passed away in the month of June, and but my mother stayed on, and in the rear of the old post office. And she was there from the, she moved then on down to Alun Close, which is by St Mary's Drive. But taking it all in, my family lived in the old post office from the 50s to the early 90s. However, before that, my cousins, the Stokes family, had ownership of the house since before the First World War. I moved into Institute Lane to a house called Fairfield, which is on the corner of Institute Lane in the early 70s, about 70, 71. And I was there for about 30 years. When I first moved in there, the Institute Lane itself was unadopted, the road, and there was no pavement in there, and that got done about 3 or 4 years later, and it was made quite a difference there. And just across the road from the second side gate, there was an old miners' institute used to be there. In early days, they used it for various things. It was a youth club at one stage in the 60s. And before that, it was a billiard hall. And they used to have various things on there, like concerts and that sort of thing. And in the 70s, they started doing work on the old bowling green, which was full of brambles, nettles, that sort of thing, and they did a good job to it. And also the tennis court, they did those up as well, so that was quite a handy thing to have. I'd like to introduce Linda Thew, who has had a lot to do with this video. She used to be my next door neighbour at one stage down Institute Lane. Here's Linda right now.
So I lived in Institute Lane from 1977 to 1986, and obviously we had lovely views from our windows overlooking Movar Mai. It was a very pleasant place to live.
Yeah.
But we did have an unadopted road.
Oh, the unadopted road, the famous unadopted road, yes. We had a meeting about this, and it was, I know it had to be done, but it was quite a bit of a shock to us all. It cost quite a lot of money because it was completely unadopted. There was no pavements, and the road was just full of potholes. Not very, very nice at all. And we had quite huge bills to pay. Do you remember in the early 70s when the council, we had a meeting with the council, and it was all to do with it was unadopted, the lane itself. And somebody came along, and one of the people that were going for this was somebody who lived down the far end of the lane. And they were all sort of new properties. So the frontage on their house was very, very small. All the neighbours to the left-hand side, which were all old houses, had to pay the most. And Linda would tell you, she had a shock because she had just moved into the...
It was actually 1978. We'd bought Heatherley in 1977, the first house up Institute Lane, and we were very young, had no money, scrimped and scraped to put a deposit down and pay the mortgage. It was, it was an awful lot of money at that time, and looking back, it was under £7,000 we paid for the property. So when you get slapped with a £500 bill to make up the road just immediately in front of your property, it was just a huge amount of money for us, and we were really, really struggling to renovate the house. We were living in a building site in effect, and to then find £500 was significant and a real struggle to find, particularly as the people living further down the Institute Lane had smaller frontages on their houses. They had the most benefit and the smallest bills. Right. So it caused an awful lot of discontent, to say the least.
I can remember it being quite a big bill. It was heart attack to our time. A bill came through and it was like £1,200, which was quite a lot of money then. And we paid it, and of course we were pleased with all the work that was done, but it cost quite a lot of money, that. A bit of a shock to the system, to say the least. I was going to say about Fairfield, where I lived. If you come up Institute Lane on the left-hand side, the first gate you will see used to be, I don't know whether you can see this or not, on the old iron church, which is here. The gate there was my father, when they were knocking the old iron church down, my dad retrieved this front gate, and now it stands on the side of Fairfield Institute Lane. So if you're passing, just have a quick look at it. That's the only thing that's left of the old iron church. Also in Institute Lane, the Institute was taken over by the council in the 60s, and it became a youth club, and they did a good job to it. Everybody from Linda included here, we used to go to the youth club, and they used to have sort of bands, rock bands, that sort of thing there. But I remember when the councilmen were there one particular day, and I was still going to school then, and I walked through the door just as, and you've got to imagine this, just as a council worker had a sledgehammer, and he put the sledgehammer right through one of the snooker tables. And you know the slate on those things were about 2 or 3 inches thick. I've never seen anything like it in my life. Well, in early days, TV was just black and white. But if it had happened in the time of colour TV, and snooker was only shown a little bit in black and white, and you had to sort of really concentrate, knowing what ball was being hit, the blue, the green, or whatever. They cost thousands of pounds. What a waste of money! Terrible. But after that, the youth club was a good place to meet, and we went on trips to John Summers's, Hawker Siddeley as it was well known then, and other places of interest. And it was run by a man called, I can't remember his first name, but it was a Mr. Loftus that used to run it. But very happy days.
The Institute was a great building. It served the community and was used for lots of things. So obviously when we were young, it was the only place to go the village to meet up with all your friends.
That's right.
So I would walk down, in my teenage years, I lived in Northop Hall cottages, so I would walk down and it would be poorly lit, I remember. So it was quite a thing coming home after going to the Institute,
right.
And sort of running past really dark stretches of the farm buildings. One of the buildings particularly was Caethin, and it was pitch black there, and there was always lots of bats, so we would a quick sprint past that, the farmhouse and back home. So
very poorly lit the village was in those days, very poorly lit.
So we'd learn dances, different sorts of
dances
and
all this sort of things. Yeah, definitely. It was a good place to go, and lots of entertainment, like Linda says, you know. And the doctor, like I said, the doctor's surgery that was there, of course. Dr. Collier was a doctor that was there for quite a long time, and I think it was followed by somebody else, but I can't remember who the other doctor was.
And there were two other doctors in the village as well at that time. It was easy to make an appointment and go and visit your
Yes, there was
GP.
one at Malvern Villa, that was a Dr. Bradley, and then there was one in another surgery in Leasow Terrace.
And that was Dr. Hughes. That was my doctor, Dr. Hughes.
Was that Dr. Hughes?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right.
So, continuing on a medical theme, the Institute also had mother and baby clinics in there as well. And 1986, I left Institute Lane, but I just had my first child, so trip across to the road to get her weighed and inoculated was an easy job, just to stroll across the road and all that would be done all in one go, which was wouldn't happen these days.
No, wouldn't. No.
And then obviously we had cups and scouts and...
Oh, they had all sorts of things, and I think they had some things like, I don't know, sales of work or something like that, like jumble sales, that sort of thing, from time to time as well. But it was well used, well patronised, and quite happy memories from there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good building. Sad to see it go.
That's it. I'd like to introduce my wife Lynn to you. Lynn and I have known one another for how many years now, is it?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, here's Lynn to say a few words about, touch on Fairfield first of all, just see.
We've moved from Fairfield, Institute Lane, and our son's bought it, so it's still in the family. It's been in the family a long time, and we've moved to 9 Alun Close, which was a bungalow, and it was lovely. We enjoyed it there very much. We were there for 11 years, and we brought our granddaughter up there. Nigel, you explain the highlights and all the views and the landmarks that we could see.
Oh yes, from Alun Close, if you looked sort of towards the west, you could see Holkin and Rose Esmer. You could see the two, I think they're not TV, but radio transmitters on top of the hill, and also the Bronze Age fort, you could see that. If you looked sort of towards the north, on the two lawns at the back, one a little bit higher than the other. If you get onto the high lawn, you could see Parkgate on the Wirral, And on a really clear day, in the daylight, you can also see the Witness Bridge, and you can see some of the skyline in Liverpool, like the Anglican Cathedral and St John's Tower, and many other things. Now at night time, if you look through the kitchen window or you went outside, the furthest thing you could see at night time was Winter Hill, the old Granada TV transmitter. You'd see that quite clearly at night. We had some very good neighbours there in Alun Close. We're sorry to move, but we are liking where we are now. It's, the amenities are a little bit better.
We're often back in Northop
But
Hall.
we're often back in Northop Hall.
Still got family.
So we've still got
love
family.
it.
And
lots of friends.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to say a little bit about the cricket club in Northop Hall. One of the earliest recollections I've got of it was the building, the original building, was sort of facing the west and really falling apart, the old building. So there was a plan to build something new. And one of the ideas they had was the old iron church, which was opposite St Mary's Church, was used for functions every now and then, jumble sales and things like that. And I believe before my time it was used for dances during and after, well, not during, but maybe before and after World War II. They used to have dances there and that sort of thing. And then the cricket club, or the committee of the cricket club, had the idea, much to a lot of people weren't happy from Northop Hall, because they decided to have a bingo session at the old church house. And a few people were complaining about it from the various churches. But anyway, it went ahead, and once a week, a couple of coaches used to come down from various areas, like the Buckley area and I think Deeside, and they used to have this bingo session. And that went on for quite a number of years. And in between, it was used for various functions, like I say. And then later on, when they got money for the cricket club, the local council had got some money together, and they had new nets put up and various things like that, and levelled it off more, the ground. And a magnificent view from there, of course. You can see the Liverpool skyline, and you can see over Mulvama, and it is quite an outstanding building and a nice place to sit and have a nice drink. I remember the primary school in Northop Hall, and I can remember on one occasion the ball going over the wall into St Mary's churchyard, and there were some laurel bushes there near to the road, and the ball went in there, and myself and a lad called Geoffrey Davis climbed over the wall, and we went to retrieve the ball, and there underneath the laurel bushes was an electric fence. So we reported it to the headmaster, and the next thing was, I think the next day, or probably the day after that, a policeman came down from Northop. His name was Freeman, a frightening looking figure, very, very tall. And he came up to Geoffrey and myself and said, now what's this about an electric fence? Yes, we said, we found it. He said, you mean you took it? You took that electric fence? And we just sort of looked up at him and we were frightened to death. And he prodded us like this, you know, like this. And this guy was about 6'6", prodded us like this, said, "Oh, you've stolen that." Oh, we didn't. And it was quite a frightening experience. But you used to see that policeman come down, and in those days, he just used to have an old push bike and that. Nothing in squad cars in those days. In the playground at Northop Hall School, the old school, towards the road, facing the road, there was an old air raid shelter from the Second World War, which was then used, of course, for the local children and that during World War II. But later on, it was used for storage for the school, footballs and different things like that were kept inside there. So I think that was the only time I've ever been in an air raid shelter, but it was quite an interesting thing, you know. So that's it.
And there's still one on Sealand Road?
Oh yes, there's one on the Sealand Road. There's one of these air raid shelters on the Sealand Road when you, just as you come, or going out from the bypass towards Chester, it's on the right-hand side. And these days they don't knock them down because they're part of our history. A lady who used to live down St Mary's Drive, Mrs Kath Jones, used to run a coach, usually a Wakely's coach, from Northop once a year to Blackpool Illuminations, and everybody, well, nearly everybody went, maybe even 2 buses, and that was a sort of a big day out for everybody, and it went on for years and years and years. Plus she used to do other trips as well, to local things like pantomimes, I think, as well. She used to go to those. She was a very nice lady, had a very infectious laugh, if I remember rightly. But Kath used to did this for years and years, and it always sticks out in my mind a little bit. And talking about buses and that sort of thing, as when Harden High School, it is Harden High School, but then it was a grammar school, and Buckley Elvie, which one I went to, wasn't as brainy as some people, but they used to have Crosville buses, and then they decided to have privately owned buses from Buckley. I think they were called Bellis's buses, and they weren't the best of buses, of course, and if you had very, very heavy, very, very bad and heavy snowfalls and things like that, they usually got stuck. But it wasn't just in the winter that you got stuck, they used to break down even in the summertime. And there used to be a little rhyme, they used to say, like, never go to heaven on a Bellis's bus, because the Bellis's bus needs a hell of a push. And talking about coach trips and that, they used to have quite a number of coach trips from the Northop Hall Cricket Club to other places where Northop Hall would be playing. And I can remember fondly going to places like Colwyn Bay, and especially a little village town of Llanrwst, which was one of the places we used to go. And after Northop Hall had played there, and in the summer months, of course, the bus would take its way to somewhere like Llandudno, and you'd have a few hours there and that, or go and see something at the theatre, which was quite a nice way to end up a trip to after a good day of watching cricket. And those used to go every year, and usually, you know, a white, not a green, a white Crosville bus used to take us there. Very happy days, of course. I'd just like to say about the butcher's shop, which is located about 2 doors away from where I lived when I was in Institute Lane. Although by then it wasn't a butcher's shop, but the earliest I can remember about that particular butcher shop. It was right across from the road from Mr. Roberts and T.C. Roberts, who had the sweet shop across the road, and right opposite across the road was the butcher shop, and there was a Mr. Owen that used to run that. But the other butcher I can remember quite well was a man called J. Wynne Williams, who was from the Flint area. He had the butcher shop, and this is him here. And I'm not sure who that is there. And this chap, he was, what was his name? Stephen Davis. That's it. And I worked there for a little while, for about 12 months, maybe a little bit more. And I used to go out after school, I used to go out on a Friday evening, summer Friday evening, down the village and up the village. And the furthest one I used to go to was some stone cottages that were across Pinfold Lane, up near just before you get to the Castle Brickworks. And I remember on one occasion going along the road there, and I took, it was a typical bicycle with a basket on the front of it, and I took the corner too sharp, and I ended up on the ground, and all the meat all over the tarmac, and very hastily getting this meat and putting it back in the basket. So it was quite a thing at the time, but it always sticks out in my mind. And that's basically, I used to go there on the Friday just to get the orders and then deliver it on the Saturday. But it was quite a nice little job, you see, it was good. Just another thought, the butcher's shop when Mr. Williams and Mr. Owen were there, but when Mr. Williams was there, there was no running water. So that would cause some problem in those days. And myself and I think Mr. Williams and we used to go across the road and bring water in two or three pails of water from Mrs. Davis's house, which is right next to the Presbyterian chapel. And that's how it went. And there was also no toilet facilities either. So it was not very, very good in those days, but that's the way it was.
Well, we always like it when people bring along their props to show us. So, Nigel, can you tell us what you've brought along today?
Okay, these are some of the items from the old post office in Northop Hall. This is the old doorbell, which used to be on just as you went into the door on the left-hand side. And these are some of the, this picture here shows you, although it's in black and white, the telephone box, the double doors here, and the old lettering that used to be over here on the top here. And this is a picture here this is George Stokes. And here are some of the medals and that he got. He got after the First World War, and he was that's his stripes and that for being in the Royal Navy.